Thank you for taking a few minutes of your time today. I always appreciate it when I get an audience with you, and I know your time is valuable, so I appreciate you taking a few minutes with me today. Let me be the first to say Happy New Year. I hope you had a restful and relaxing time with your family. I hope you came back refreshed and recharged as we head into this second semester and going in toward the end of the year. A couple of things I wanted to share with you today that are going to be pending changes over the next few months, and I wanted to keep you involved in the process and let you know where we stand with our strategic waiver school system application. Just to remind you of the process, we went through the letter of intent back in June of 2015. We'd also been talking about this for over a year. We put out a survey, we asked all of our stakeholders, we went to the community to find out what option they wanted us to choose as we move forward as a school system. Overwhelmingly, it was at that time, the Investing in Educational Excellence, or IE squared, as their strategic waivers school system, and so that's the route that we're taking. Part of that process involved an application that we had to fill out, and we've been working diligently on that for the past several months, and we're at a point now to where that application is about to be presented to the board. We will actually present it to the board at our January work session and detail all of the work that's gone into that, what that application looks like, the body of that performance contract, the consequences that are associated with it, and then when we'll move that on, as they approve that, it will go on to the State Board of Education. The piece that I wanted to talk a little more about today was the strategic planning component of this application process. Hopefully you've been quite involved in this process as well at the school level. It began with a discussion at leadership over a year ago. Strategic planning obviously is something that's part of this application, but it's also a process we need to go through on a 3 to 5 year basis to make sure that we're continuing to move forward with our vision and our mission as a district and as a school, so that we're impacting students in the proper way. So you began talking about this at your leadership meetings back at your school. That was also a part of a faculty meeting, maybe a grade level meeting. Department heads were entertaining feedback from you, and then the feedback was being brought back to leadership, where we were able to discuss that as well. It was funny how things broke into grade bands. We had quite a few things that were specific to elementary or to middle or even to high school. We took all of that information and tried to incorporate that into one living document that took all of the feedback, all of the pieces that you felt like at the classroom level as a practitioner in the school was important to what we do as we move forward in that 3 to 5 year process. So what you have now is your principal has been given instructions to bring that back to you and allow you to take one final look at that revised draft plan prior to it becoming part of our application for the strategic waiver school system. We feel like that everything that you'll see in that plan is something that you have discussed in detail that impacts your school several months ago, and that was the goal in the beginning. We felt like that if we were going to build a plan that was going to work for our district, for our schools, and especially for our students, it needed to be something that came directly from the classroom level, from the practitioner level, and then up to the central level where we could just be the provider of the resources. You guys are there in the trenches doing that work every day. We wanted to make sure that that plan is something that you came up with and that we could build the support level and the support systems around. So I think that you're going to be pleased with what you see. And I elicit more feedback from you. As you know, anytime I've ever come on camera and talked to you, I always let you know that feedback is important to me. If you have questions, if you have concerns, something you didn't understand, or maybe you didn't have a chance to give feedback, you can always email me, you can always call me, or take time to come by the office and visit with me, or when I'm in your school and you see me out and about, stop me and ask those particular questions. So I just wanted to kind of go a little deeper on the strategic planning side before I introduce the rest of this PowerPoint. You're going to see some voiceover slides that really go into a little more detail about the process itself. But I wanted to come on first and introduce it to you, and then at the end of the video you're going to see me once again so I can recap and give you some of those next steps that we'll be looking forward to over the next few weeks and months. Let's discuss some of the components of the flexibility options. The first was to update your system strategic plan. Next, we were required to have 2 public forums. We fulfilled that requirement on May 18 at Lafayette High School, and then on June 9 at Ridgeland High School. The final component was to submit a system designation letter of intent by the June 30, 2015 deadline. We did that, and in our letter of intent, we chose the Strategic Waivers School System. Formerly it was called IE², and that was in most of the correspondence that you heard from me. And then the next step is to begin the application process. The beginning of the application process had a variety of next steps. Probably the largest one was the revision of the strategic plan, and we're going to talk a little more about that in just a few minutes. We have to take that revised strategic plan and then incorporate that into the application. We also had to determine the waivers that were needed during this contract period. We held a public forum on October 13 at the board planning session at AEC, and then again on October 19 at the regular board meeting here in Lafayette to get input from the public, from our teachers about the application, and to answer any questions that were associated with the waivers and any miscommunication that was out there. The final piece will be to finalize their strategic plan, to complete the application, to get that board approved, and then have it submitted to the State Board of Education prior to April 1st deadline. Strategic planning has become the dominant portion of our agenda at each of our monthly leadership meetings. Principals then took this discussion back to their school-level leadership teams and asked for feedback not only from this team, but also from all members of the staff associated with their respective buildings. We also asked the principal to gather feedback from community stakeholders, parents, and business partners so that that feedback could also become part of any of the final revisions. The goal was to have the final draft ready for board approval and then part of the application that goes on to the State Board of Education. One of the unique things that surfaced during this revision of the strategic plan were the things that were unique to certain grade bands. We broke them up into elementary, middle, and high. We gave that feedback to our principals at one of our leadership meetings. We broke them into two groups that had representation from all three levels in each group. And we asked them to assure that everything that had been discussed and had been provided as feedback from each school was somehow being incorporated into what we saw as our final draft for the strategic plan. We have compiled all of the feedback and now have a final draft plan ready for your review. I've informed the principals to hold a faculty meeting, a grade level meeting, some type of meeting within your building over the next couple of weeks to give you a final chance to look at this plan and to make sure that all the feedback, all the pieces that you felt were important that needed to be part of this strategic plan have somehow been incorporated into this final draft and offer feedback. Once we have done this, then this will become part of the Strategic Waivers School System application that will be submitted to the State Board of Education. So now we've gone through the slides. You've heard some of the background information on each of the slides and the explanation of kind of the process, where we have been, where we are currently. Let me tell you a little bit about what's going to happen next. I mentioned earlier that this would be part of the January planning session where we'll detail this to the board members, and the goal will be for them to go back, study, look at this, and then make a decision as it comes to approving this at the regular board session meeting the following Tuesday. At that point, then it will be sent to the State Board of Education, their flexibility decision, our department, and at that point they will set up and arrange a conference call or a Skype session with our district group where we talk through the application, the performance contract, the consequences, the waivers that are being asked for, the innovative practices that we're considering, all of the pieces that go along with our application. At that point, any revisions that need to be made will then be done by the district level team, and then following the revisions and resubmitting of that to the State Board, we will become part of the agenda for the State Board of Education. The goal is to have that approved prior to their April 1st, 2016 deadline, and this will make us a strategic waiver school system as we enter July 1 of 2016, the FY17 year. So that's kind of the process. I wanted you to know what that looked like, where we sit currently, how the strategic plan and your involvement of a really major component of this application has been completed, and to keep you in the loop on those things. The last thing I want to talk about, which is not part of the PowerPoint that you've looked at, is I just want to remind you that the legislative session starts on Monday. There's quite a few things that are out there that could potentially become legislation or bills in the future that have a dramatic impact on education in general, and I just want to make sure that you're aware of those things. I'll begin sending out any correspondence that I receive that I feel like is pertinent. I will also be putting together quite a few templates for talking points. I'll provide you contact information with all of our legislators, all of our elected officials, so that you can have that voice as well. As educators, we're responsible for making sure that our elected officials know how this does impact not just the state of Georgia, but the students in Walker County and the employees of Walker County Schools. And so I want to make sure that you have those available, so you'll see quite a bit of information coming out. Now, most of you are already members of one of several of our teacher organizations. We have great teacher organizations here in the state of Georgia. They're also sending out quite a bit of information right now, so I just ask you to make sure you're checking your email, make sure you're looking at this information, read into it, find out the details about it. If you have questions, feel free to contact me and let me know. I'll be happy to share that with you. But there are some things about to happen in the world of education that we need to make sure that you're aware of. And one would be the constitutional amendment that's actually going to be on the ballot in November. You need to know where you stand on that and what you need to do as far as a vote, and then what word you need to get out to other educators about what could potentially happen if something like this is approved. So you'll be getting lots of information from me. I try to keep you in the loop, let you know what's coming down the pike, so you'll know and you can react to that and respond to that appropriately. So just keep your eyes open for quite a bit of information that's going to be coming out over the next few weeks. I say all this to end by saying thank you for what you do. You guys do amazing things in the classroom. You do amazing things in your school. You're doing amazing things for the students that we serve each and every day. And I want you to know how much I appreciate that, but how much our stakeholders appreciate that as well. You're doing a great job. I want to make sure that you stay informed. And as we go forward, you'll be able to hear and see quite a bit from me directly through email. Also on our new website, we're utilizing that for additional information. So I just would encourage you to continue to check there as well to make sure that you stay in that loop. And I always end by telling you, anytime you need to talk to me, you know I'm open and available, whether that's through email or direct contact, or when I'm in your school, or if you set up a time to come by and see me in my office. So thank you for the time that you've given me today. I hope this has been informative, and I'll leave you with that. Thank you.